Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I am the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. Welcome to really the first Global Innovation Summit. We did something like this 3 years ago in our former home back before that 5-letter word COVID happened. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. It didn't amount to very much financially. It also didn't really result in anything. I think we all felt really great about it. However, COVID hit. And our idea was that we would do that event every year, and that didn't quite work out. So we put it on the back burner and said, eventually we need to be doing some sort of a regular special innovation conversation on global business. And so we came up with this idea because of our sponsor, Velocity Global, who said, hey, let's do something around innovation, which tied quite nicely into what we were thinking. So we decided we were going to do this with Velocity Global. So lo and behold, here we are. I would like to start this program by introducing April Cohen of Velocity Global. She's the worldwide global programs director for the firm. She's been great to work with. She's relatively new with the firm, but she's got a firm grasp on what's going on with the company. And in fact, she's revolutionizing their partner program, which we're really excited about. We'd love to hear an update on that as well. Velocity Global is a leading EOR company, and you're going to hear more about what value they provide to companies, especially these days because of COVID. People need to hire people all over the world, and they're able to help that while protecting intellectual property. So April, could you come up and let us know a little bit about what you'd like to accomplish today and a little bit about Velocity Global?
I'll take this one here. That works for me. April Cohen, nice to meet you guys. I'm from Velocity Global. I also have somebody else here, Amber, that is also with Velocity Global, and she is on the reselling side director. She leads that team. So since he brought it up, I am very new. I'm going on basically my 3rd month here with the company, and I've been brought on to really make a really good structured program for our partners so that we are easy to work with. We are very transparent and able to offer everything we want to offer through our partnerships. So Velocity Global is actually a simple compliant solution that can hire anywhere, hire, pay, and manage any talent that you have. We're able to help you get into a country or a state that you actually don't have an entity in. So we can help get talent anywhere that you want to hire within 7 to 10 business days. It's a very, very quick process. Compliantly, we have a bunch of lawyers, so that legal side of it all, to make sure that when you do hire somebody, it is compliant within that country or that state. And then we have a dedicated HR support. So if you have any questions or anything at all from your actual customers or your employees, we are able to answer those questions within hours. So I probably 24 to 48 hours, depending on when. So great company to come and join us, connect with us. We're going to be over here at this little table. We have a very beautiful purple Yeti, if you can see. And we're going to have a nice little contest here, and you can go ahead and scan and put in your information, and we'll send you our information because we don't have business cards. I've been asked that question a few times. So just so you know, we will definitely send you our information afterwards. And after the event, we're going to go ahead and do the drawing. It won't be today, but we will get it done this week or very soon. And we'll personally deliver, if we can, the wonderful Yeti. It may not have wine in it, but it will have lots of swag in it. So you'll be very happy. Maybe a bowl full of candy. No. So definitely come and connect with us, meet with us. Any questions you may have, feel free. For the people on the phone, you can email partnerships@Velocity Global, or you can email myself, April Cohen @Velocity Global, and I'll be checking those all day. So if there is a question that comes in, I'll be able to forward that answer over to you.
So hello world, welcome to the Global Chamber Global Innovation Summit sponsored by Velocity Global. We appreciate you zooming in from all over, and even not our next speaker, but the speaker after, zooming in from Norway. And I know many of you are zooming in from Europe and other parts of the world that are quite late, and even some of you very early in the morning. I know there are several of you from Singapore, so thank you for getting up a little early and joining us here at the Global Innovation Summit. I'd like to thank a couple folks before we move very much further. One is Dr. Sanjeev Kagram. The room that we're in here now is the Global Forum here at Thunderbird's headquarters that is located in Phoenix, Arizona. We get a view of the street here, and we're also seeing the world above us and really all around us. And thanks to you, you are here with us in this, the #1 international trade education school in the world, recently named Thunderbird. So thank you, Dr. Kagram. Thank you, Ghazal Khorshidi, also for all the help and support that you provide. Ghazal, I think, is on Zoom and may be down here later today. She's due, I think, in about 2 to 3 months with a child, and being a new grandfather, I know that there are some things that the mother needs to be cognizant of and be careful of. And so thank you, Ghazal, for all the work that you've done to help and support us for so long. And also, there are many of you that have been so instrumental in keeping Global Chamber in support for our 8 years. And so thank you for your support. Our first speaker after this introduction is going to be our keynote speaker, and she is extraordinary. The topic of her talk is Breakthrough Speaking on Innovation with Impact. Her name is Natsuyo Lipschutz, and she's based in the New York City area. She's the managing principal of her own strategy consulting firm, Aspire Intelligence. She's also an executive consultant for Breakthrough Speaking, a global public speaking consultancy. In addition, Natsuyo is the best-selling author of The Success Blueprint, which she co-wrote with business speaker Brian Tracy. I think you're going to really love Natsuyo. Natsuyo, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. We can see you here in the room. We'll take a picture so you can see what that is. And we look forward to learning more about being a lot more effective in our speaking about innovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. You've seen a karate master break through a wooden board, right? Imagine you are that karate master. In front of you are not 1, but 2 layers of boards, and you must break through both layers to call it a success. Communicating your company's innovation to a global market works just like that. In today's digital economy, businesses in all industries are seeking new ways to innovate and reinvent themselves to survive. You may wonder, what's the most critical factor in leading disruptive innovation? Is it the big idea or big funding, inspiration or perspiration, taking risks or following processes? It's all of the above, but none of the above is the single most critical factor. Turning a game-changing idea into a sustainable business requires one other vital ingredient. Over 2 decades of experience in consulting global companies, I found that the single most critical factor is communication. In order to effectively communicate your innovation to a global market, there are 2 roadblocks, or I should say woodblocks, that we need to break through. One is the internal barrier. Innovation is a team sport. Disruptive innovation comes from a diverse cross-functional teams harnessing marketing, sales, R&D, human resources, operations, or engineering. By working together, their differences make teams stronger. Diverse teams, however, can also be a source of internal conflict when those differences put people at odds with their own perspectives. From start to finish, open communication should underpin your entire effort if you want to be disruptive, not disrupted. Second roadblock to breakthrough is the external barrier. Innovation can be disruptive because no one has seen it, done it, thought of it that way, which also means that general public will not understand the value of your innovation yet. You need to communicate the big idea, the values, what this innovation means to them, and take the innovation closer to their everyday life. If you don't communicate effectively, you may face resistance to the idea from your audience, and your business will be disrupted, not disruptive. Especially in a global business environment, just because the same language, or let's say English, is spoken doesn't mean that your message is clearly heard. You need to communicate clearly, powerfully, and persuasively beyond our cultural differences. Then what do we do to communicate our innovation effectively so that we can break through not one, but 2 layers of woodblocks? My company, Breakthrough Speaking, works with global organizations that want to elevate cultural inclusion and have their leaders communicate effectively beyond differences. And we do so through cross-cultural communications training, global presentation coaching, and keynote speeches. Today, you will receive 2 tools from our breakthrough method to get your messages not only clearly heard, but also acted upon. The first tool is to break through the internal layer. That is, good questions. Ancient Greek philosopher Diogenes said, "We have 2 ears and 1 tongue so that we would listen more and talk less." Listening is so important, especially in a diverse team. But you don't want to just listen. You want to actively listen. How do we do that? Ask good questions, because answers you receive are as good as the quality of your questions. Good questions are something that people are willing to answer, and they encourage the other person to think deeper, dig deeper into themselves, look for answers within, and volunteer the information. For example, does your innovation make things easier? This question doesn't get your answer as deep as, why is this innovation important to you? The latter is a good question. Good questions get people to think, relate, and understand at a deeper level. That's why good questions help you to uncover what common sense might be buried in your diverse team, surface them, and determine how you can adapt your communication without sacrificing your values and beliefs, so that your message is not only clearly heard, but acted upon. The second tool you received today is to break through the external layer. That is strategic storytelling. Great speakers, entrepreneurs, and CEOs have something in common. It is that they are great storytellers. They understand that in order to influence people and move them to action, you have to be able to trigger their emotions. Before you sell anything, you need your audience to connect with you. They need to understand your why and identify with you on a more personal level. That why is your story behind that innovation. The why is their story that they're going to experience with this innovation. And there is no better way to communicate the why than to tell a compelling story, because story is a universal language. And I have created the 6 C's of strategic storytelling that will help you to be authentic, meaningful, and powerful by communicating your messages using storytelling. And if you're curious to learn more about how to craft a strategic story, I invite you to scan this QR code and download my ebook now. Okay, don't be shy. Take out your phone now and scan the QR code. Ready? Okay. This is a free gift from me for the esteemed Global Chamber members. And after the download, you will receive my e-magazines where you can learn more about the good questioning technique, strategic storytelling, cross-cultural communications, and more. If you implement these tools that you learned today, you will communicate your innovation effectively to a culturally diverse audience and break through not one, but 2 layers of barriers like a karate master. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yes, you may clap. Does anybody have a question for Natsuyo? Anybody have a question? Any reaction? Who's a really great speaker and you got something out of it today? Are you a great speaker? Oh, who's a great speaker here? Everybody's turning their face down. So that's cool. So that's great. And Natsuyo, thank you so much for the time and really great information. How do then people get a hold of you? Certainly through the QR code that you shared is one way. What do you have coming up in your community, and how would we normally stay in touch with you?
Sure. You can connect me on LinkedIn, and I actually provided my contact information to the Zoom host, so he should be posting it very soon in the chat. But you can find me on LinkedIn, and there is also a Calendly code that I provided to the Zoom host. So if you're interested in having a one-on-one conversation with me, you can schedule a 30-minute discovery call, or just simply send me a message on LinkedIn.
Thank you very much. And a round of applause. So our next speaker, I apologize, Thomas. While I was going through all of this, I lost the notes that I was going to make a spectacular introduction to you for, and I still can't find it because I'm getting bombarded by emails, and I've made the mistake of putting it in my emails. But Thomas Axness of Health Optimizing is an extraordinary entrepreneur and a leader with Health Optimizing. He's co-founder and head of innovation. When they've been members for a couple of years, and they were very impressive right from the get-go. And then more recently, as we started to understand more and more about what they do and how they work, it's been even more impressive. And in the last call that we did, we learned that he's been doing 100-hour weeks for 20 years. For 20 years. So has anybody ever said, oh, I've got to catch up this week, I'm going to do 100 hours, and you kind of map it out and do it for 1 week, and how significant that is? He's been doing it for 20 years, and he's been utilizing the technology that they have at Health Optimizing. So Thomas, you're amazing. Congratulations on your success. I'm sorry that I lost your introduction, but I'll hopefully gain and be able to find it here in a moment. Are you in Bergen, Norway this evening? Oh, we don't hear you yet. Try again.
Yes, I am in Bergen indeed. Can you hear me now?
Fantastic. And I think the volume now, the sound is close to the video. And so the picture behind you, I presume, must be some sort of a video. That's not really outside the back of your house, is it?
No, it's not. It is in Bergen though. So it is very close to where I am.
It
But
looks
yes,
beautiful.
I have a green screen with a backdrop of the beautiful city of Bergen.
Well, thank you for staying up, which will eventually be after midnight for you. We look forward to learning more. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So let me share my screen. Can you all see it? I will assume so. All right, so I will be sharing about health optimizing and how we are building the future of health. But first, did you know that in the Western world, there's an average lag of 18 to 25 years from when a new technology is medically approved to when it's implemented in conventional clinics? 18 to 25 years. So just imagine your mobile phone, for example, 18 to 25 years ago, and compare it to the smartphone you have today. So the development of technologies in all industries have been really vast in this period, even exponentially. Yet in healthcare, the implementation is very, very slow. And the reason for that is that this tiny little box that we define as conventional is too small for these new technologies to fit within. So the box needs to change. And that is what we're doing in health optimizing. We are creating a bigger box where we can implement all these amazing advancements in technologies from all over the world. And we've been working with the technology developers and institutes for many, many years to develop our concept, to test the prototypes, and to build the concepts where we can utilize it. So it's a whole new box of medicine. And also, more than half the population of the Western world develop one or more chronic health problems. So I think that is a testament to how the conventional healthcare system do not have all the answers. And this is why we need to add, not replace, but to add more methodologies to be able to help the majority actually of the population who have problems that cannot be resolved conventionally. And beyond that, even those who don't have any chronic health problems, they still have a great untapped potential to optimize their health and to improve the quality of life. And we have the solutions for that, to find out what will make the biggest impact, to find out what the challenges are in the first place, but also to have the technologies to actually make a really big difference and to resolve those issues that are at hand. And we've been spending the last 24 years now researching and developing this concept and the methodologies. We started the first clinic in Bergen, very close to what you see in the backdrop here, 20 years ago in Bergen. And we have a proof of concept now from hundreds of thousands of clients through our clinics on 5 continents. So this is not just an idea. We have a lot of proof of concept for how this, the future actually already is a reality. To resolve health challenges and to tap into the potential in optimizing health beyond that, we need to get enough pieces of the jigsaw puzzle to see the fuller picture. So the human organism is extremely complex. So it's like a massive jigsaw puzzle. And actually the complexity of just one human being exceeds the complexity of any man-made technology up to date. So with the conventional methodologies for assessment, for diagnostics, there's actually less than 1% of these pieces that can be mapped out. And even though you can have a very high quality of those pieces, there's not enough of them to see what picture it forms. So when we can add our pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, and we also have many, many more pieces than what is currently implemented into conventional healthcare, then we can, in most cases, see what picture it forms. And it's not just about finding additional pieces of the jigsaw, it's also to have the expertise in how to put the pieces together and how to understand the picture. And that's really what we specialize in health optimizing. So the process, first we do a very comprehensive health assessment. We can measure today up to 20,000 health parameters at the same level of accuracy as normal conventional tests. And what we need to do when we find something that doesn't work properly is to find the roots of that problem, to find out what are the underlying causations that made it possible for this to develop in the first place. What are the triggers that trigger this development? And also, why didn't our self-healing, self-regulating mechanisms, such as the immune system and all these processes we have to deal with things, why didn't they resolve this when it was early emerging? So there's always a combination of causative factors, and we need to find all the primary to be able to fully resolve the problem. And then we make a personalized treatment plan where we address each of the roots of the problem with the best combination of methodologies for doing so, usually most of them technology-based. You can have 10 people with the same diagnosis, and not 2 of them will have the same treatment protocol because they have different roots that were involved with developing the problem. We also look into what lifestyle factors are relevant for why this developed in the first place, and also what lifestyle factors are stealing the most of the capacity to just feel energized and to thrive and to optimize the quality of life. So after we fix the problems, we also help with how can we optimize health beyond that. So challenges that we frequently solve, what we have the most experience with is health problems that other solutions don't really exist for, different types of chronic illnesses. And word of mouth is so powerful for us there that we actually never in 20 years marketed our clinic services. But my philosophy is that we should be more proactive about health and that we should prevent health problems. And by doing so, by creating the capacity to improve health problems, there's also the capacity to be much more energized and to really thrive and to have a much higher quality of life, to age much slower. And this is really the future of health. The way I see it is to be much more proactive about health. And today we have the technologies to be able to do that. We also have a lot of proof of concept for dealing with athletes to solve their injuries much faster, to optimize their health, to be able to do much better, and to just improve their performance, to build up the ATP production in their cells, and all of these different aspects that are relevant for high performance. And I think that's a good testament of the potential in what we do when we've been able to help people win world championships in different sports. But I think it's for everyone really to optimize and be the best version of who we can be. And we like to really redefine the medical paradigm. And I will get back to that a little bit later. Our 3 core businesses, one is the health optimizing clinics. So we have a unique and complete clinic concept with 33 technologies. It's available through franchise and other partnerships, and we have extensive training and support. So it's like a turnkey operation to set up a clinic that can implement all the latest state-of-the-art technologies and the know-how for how to use them. The other business is the health status report, which is an assessment that we now offer for other clinics for occupational health services, where we have, from our experience, developed an automated assessment and report system. So it takes about 15 minutes to do 8 different technologies. We get a lot of information from that, and then we have a software that can extrapolate that information and conclude on the most important aspects of the health, of the main functions of the body. And that is the starting point for them to be able to do other assessments to find out more, but also to know what factors are important to deal with to avoid things from developing further. We also have innovative health products. We have technologies to optimize even at the cellular level, and we have nutraceuticals to deal with very specific problems. And some of those technologies are also solutions listed into the health status report, so that this is all combined, where when more assessments are needed, health optimizing clinics or other conventional tests can do that. Some of the solutions will be through lifestyle, some will be through the innovative health products. So we're trying to really make an impact, and we're on a mission to redefine the medical paradigm and to make health optimizing solutions and clinics accessible to the entire population. And I think that's what I was able to say in these very few minutes. But we have more information on these different websites that you can see here, and I suggest to maybe take a photo of this so that you can get in contact with us if that will be of interest.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And Tina, I got your message. We'll definitely get you connected. Does anybody have any questions for Thomas? We have several. Oh, you have a question. Okay, please go. Connie Kadinsky.
So Thomas, is it helping with neuropathy?
You're asking if it is helping with neuropathy?
Yes, and just figuring out what's causing the neuropathy.
What is
So regardless
neuropathy?
of what the diagnosis is, what we do is to try to find out what the roots of that diagnosis is. A lot of times with neuropathy, we can, and in those cases, we can find out what's causing it. Usually those issues can also be resolved with a combination of the technologies that we have. We don't specialize in any specific type of diagnosis, and it always starts with a very comprehensive assessment. And from that assessment, then we know whether we can resolve this or not, based on whether we manage to find the roots of the problem and whether those are resolvable.
Did that answer your question? What should we know about that answer?
Well, a lot of physicians say it's idiopathic. They cannot figure out what is causing it. And my husband, it's numb feet. You can't feel your feet.
Yeah. So most things are so-called chronic or idiopathic or autoimmune, but in reality, it's just because there's a lack of ways of finding out what's causing them. A lot of clients are also told conventionally that it's all in your head. But if you look at very, very few factors, and then you make a conclusion based on that, that this is just your body attacking yourself, or it's all in your head, or we don't know what's causing this, it's from the lack of information. So I think this really highlights my point here, that we need to implement new methodologies and technologies in healthcare. And these methodologies already exist. We have the medical approvals for them. We have the know-how for how to use these technologies in combination. We have a clinic concept with extremely good success and a lot of proof of concept for that. So it's just a matter of bringing that to the world and implementing the new technologies, because as you pointed out there, it is lacking what is there today. Answers are lacking, and that's why that's actually the main reasons why things cannot be resolved easily, because you can only resolve things by the roots, and if you don't know what the roots are, then you can't really resolve it. Of course, it also comes down to having good enough methodologies to resolve the problems, but the starting point is to find out what is causing it. And idiopathic just means we don't know yet what is causing it.
Thank you very much, Thomas. What time is it there in Norway?
It's probably closer to midnight. Yeah, 11:38.
Thank you for participating, and a last round of applause here in the Zoom world and also here in the room.
Thank you.
And for those of you on Zoom that are watching, there's many of you all over the world, so thank you for participating today. We are going to be able, for our next speaker, to be able to take questions. So put them in the chat area, and we'll facilitate that. Our next speaker is going to be talking a little bit of different angle on innovation. What Thomas was talking about was innovation in technology and healthcare. And so the different kind of innovation we'll be hearing from David Adame, President and CEO of Chicanos por la Causa, is innovation with community impact. David serves as president and CEO of what we'll call CPLC, Chicanos por la Causa, one of the nation's largest community development corporations. He was born and raised in South Phoenix, the way that was written on your bio, I thought was interesting, because I think we all recognize that the south of Phoenix, there's a thriving, exciting community that some of us go to for great Mexican restaurants, like Commodore Guadalajara is still our #1 favorite. Mr. Adame began his career at CPLC after graduating with a degree in business. I believe at ASU. After 2 years, he left the organization to craft an impressive career in the private sector, including extensive experience in real estate and development. He worked in leadership positions at JP Morgan Chase and Company, Fannie Mae's Arizona Partnership Office, McCormick, Barron and Salazar, and the Phoenix office of the Local Initiative Support Corporation. David returned to CPLC and now is the president and CEO. And the innovation and hard work that they're putting together has created a significant amount of expansion well beyond Arizona, including to Nevada, New Mexico, California, Texas, Mexico, and even to where Cesar Trabanco is right now in the ethosphere, managing the Zoom part, to Puerto Rico. Thankfully, we have Maria Jesus Cervantes, who is with David right now, and she's on our regional advisory board. She's the VP of Public Relations and International Affairs at CPLC. David, we really thank you for all that you do. You're also the board member of Federal Home Loan of San Francisco and Grand Canyon Education. You are a busy guy and you've got a great background, and it's just so amazing the innovations that you're bringing and hard work to CPLC and the community and to so many people. If you would come up and share more, please. David Adame, thank you. Would you like to use this, or would you like to use this?
Well, thank you for that introduction. I really appreciate it. And I'm very proud to be the current CEO and president of Chicanos por la Causa. We're about to celebrate 54 years of, we like to say, battling for our community, in Spanish, luchando por la comunidad. And our goal is to be a model for our community, right? Our strategy is we don't want to be dependent on government. You know, the typical nonprofit. We don't want to have a bunch of bake sales or chicken dinners and those types of things. So we try to be very innovative and creative. And over the 54 years when we first started, we're serving about 2 million people on a direct basis on an annual basis now, which is, I thought about it, I said, wow, man, when do we sleep? But you know, that's being done by a team of about 2,500 staff that we have in the states that were issued. But we continue want to grow. I was in Utah recently, and we're looking at Colorado, kind of a 7 southwestern state kind of footprint. And our international, which I'm going to talk more about here, that's something that me and my team decided to do about starting 7 years ago. And of course, we started with Mexico. That's our neighbor. That's a lot of our roots from our community. But, you know, we did the Caribbean. Puerto Rico was a natural one. I actually took a trip to Cuba, but unfortunately, it was right before the first Trump election. And once Hillary didn't win, that kind of went out the window. So we couldn't go to Cuba at that time, but we haven't forgotten. And I get calls once in a while. I say, we haven't forgotten. We may try to go back. We're targeting for Central America to probably have a headquartered office in Guatemala. I already have located my president for that market if we were successful there. And then in South America, it's kind of a battle between Brazil and Colombia right now. You know, my CFO was just in Brazil with a delegation that went down there. So she got some intel for us on opportunities to work with Brazil. We do a lot of work with the Phoenix Committee on Foreign Relationships, so that kind of helps us. And actually last night we hosted a dinner for the Consul of Canada last night for dinner, and we want to do the whole USMCA type of approach, right? Mexico, United States, and do some exciting thing. You know, we're talking to the Bank of Montreal about supporting some stuff. But I don't know if my slide thing was going to go up. Was it going to go up? Was that the guy in Puerto Rico taking care of it?
Oh, there we go.
Well, I said,
thank you.
Go to the next slide, please. Yeah, these are our focus areas, right? Kind of, we call them our pillars, 5 pillars: housing, economic development, healthcare, education. And the last one is we created a 501c4 so we could get more back into politics. We obviously, back when we started in 1969, there wasn't as many rules about nonprofits participating in this, but now we had to create a separate entity. And actually in this last election, we had a big impact. We we invested $10 million of resources that we had to a campaign to get the vote out, especially with the Latino community. There'd always been a lot of talk that, you know, we weren't participating at the levels we should. So we're very proud to say we made a tremendous impact in this last election. We had a record turnout from our community. And, you know, I was talking to now Governor Hobbs and saying, you know, our community voted for you 70% to 30%. That was over 400,000 plus votes. So I think we helped you a little bit, right? We helped you a little bit. I predicted, because we did the same thing for President Biden a couple of years ago, that she was going to win by 10,000 votes like Biden did. And she ended up winning by about almost 13,000. I said, well, our community grew a little bit. So, you know, there you go. But can I get the next slide, please? Yeah, this kind of gives a map. Puerto Rico is a little bit off of the grid here, so we don't have a little star for Puerto Rico, but we are officially there. In fact, I was talking to our partners in Puerto Rico today. We're doing a lot of housing there, housing development. We actually have one of the innovative things that we do is we create for-profit companies so we can earn our own income to support our social service mission. And we actually have an engineering company that focuses on dry utility design and coordination. So as you know, with the hurricanes, they need a lot of work in rebuilding their grid for electricity. Next slide, please. So we created CPLC Global. Emilio Gaynor in front here is our president of that. And the whole idea is, how do we work with these other nations and work together so that we can take the model that we're doing here in the United States and take some of those practices in partnerships in these other countries. And the idea is we got foreign investment going back and forth. And Mexico is probably the most advanced opportunity right now. If you go to the next slide, please. Here's one. It's a development in Gilbert, if you know the valley. It's in Gilbert. It's on Williamsfield and Wrecker, give or take. There's a Fry's shopping center across the street from it. But this is one where some of the family foundations that we've gotten to know in the networks in Mexico, we're developing this. One of the families, because of COVID, had to bow out of the project. And me and Emilio and Maria were very involved in the Arizona-Mexico Commission and got to know some of the families through that. And they said, hey, would you guys consider coming in and replacing that investor? And we did, and we're probably gonna have a ribbon cutting here in about another 30 days to open up there's some of the shops and restaurants already open. It's a cool outdoor kind of shopping mall type of thing. The reason we put this other slide up here is because it's going to be the largest outdoor mural art display. I think there's about 20, if I remember right, 20 different murals that are throughout the plaza that you can see and walk around. So we ended up doing about $5 million to join in this investment at CPLC. Next slide, please. Another effort is we're working with the Yuma Port Authority, and there's a big demand for storage of goods and services coming, or goods primarily coming across the border. So we were in escrow to buy 85 acres to build a new industrial park. It's right next to the port of entry that was expanded in Yuma to where the trucks cross, where they can store their stuff, and then it gets shipped from wherever else from there. But there's a big demand. We're going to work with the Port Authority of that. So we're bringing jobs to the community, right? We're bringing taxes to the community for all this stuff and other opportunities that we're going to work with the community there to reinvest. One of the things that broke off of this is we have a partnership with Northern Arizona University. They have their Yuma campus, which is has grown significantly, and we have a scholarship program with some of the proceeds that we earn to make sure that people from the community who want to get higher education can go to NAU and have success there. Next slide, please. And we could just, the idea is explore partnerships. I was just meeting, I have my friends that just walked in from the back from Veracruz, Mexico. We're talking about a possible partnership where they're creating the United Healthcare of Mexico, if you will, right? For the middle income folks in Mexico, that there's the systems in Mexico for healthcare aren't as strong as they are here in the United States. So we're talking to them about doing an investment with them so we can help make sure that that kind of a product and that kind of services are available in Mexico, right? So we're looking at significant investments there. We're looking at other developments there. And again, it's cross-border. It's not just one side or the other, right? We're trying to, again, it's a self-sufficiency model, right? So these are all, we call these economic engines, if you will, so that we can continue to serve both whatever country or community that we're working with. And I think that's my final slide. Yeah. I just wanted to share just a sample of what we're doing. Like I said, we were with the Council of Canada and the Minister of Finance from Quebec. So again, we're trying to just show that we're a different type of nonprofit. We're a community development corporation that has capacity and innovative ideals. So the story I always tell is, so when I sit down with somebody, especially these, and they ask me, well, David, how can we help the community? How can we help CPLC? How can we help you? Again, I go back, first thing out of my mouth is, I have a chicken dinner to sell you. I say, let's sit down and have a strategy session. Let's figure out what your goals and objectives are. We'll tell you what our strengths are, and we'll find the pony in there. And that's what happened with this, my friends from Mexico for this insurance company. We also have, the opportunity from the investment. And we're also doing another investment in Marana down south, southern Arizona. That's a market rate apartment complex, housing so high in demand right here. So we're a limited partner in that case, 5 million limited partner in that. We're also doing a pref lending on $6 million. So, CPLC was blessed during the pandemic. We're also a U.S. Treasury certified community development financial institution. So we're an SBA lender with all this stuff. But having the U.S. Treasury designation allowed us to be an eligible lender for, you guys heard about the PPP lending that was out there during the pandemic for small businesses as a payroll protection program. That's what the PPP stands for. So we ended up being eligible to be a lender in that program to help the small business, especially the businesses of led by people of color, because the banks weren't getting to them at the time. They were so overwhelmed with this program. So they invited groups like ours to be a lender in that. And we ended up being the third largest lender in the country, period, in 2021. Our group, they work day and night. We ended up lending about $7.6 billion worth of loans, about 450,000 transactions. What I'm proud of is that 75% went to people of color-led businesses and 60% went to African-American-led businesses. So we're very proud. I got a call from Secretary Yellen saying, thank you so much. Without you guys, we wouldn't have been able to serve everybody who was deserving of this kind of help. So that's the kind of innovation and different things that we do. Again, all towards being self-sufficient. The stockholders for CPLC are the communities we work in, so we invest right back into them. So I'll end it with that. Thank you.
So one question, what's next? So it's been an amazing year, amazing couple of years. What do you see for 2023 and 4?
Well, there's a couple of things. One of the businesses we got into last year was helping take care of refugees. I was called by the Biden administration last year with the crisis happening in southern Texas. We ended up providing the services for a center that was created with the capacity of 1,500 young men from Central America. We ended up hiring 2,000 people in 6 weeks. We had to create a mini hospital, a mini high school, a mini immigration services. So we're going to continue to build upon that. We know in the news about Title 42 that's out there. So we want to be prepared to be able to treat these people appropriately and with compassion. The idea that we're just busing people and dropping them off is unacceptable. So we're going to be in a position to be a better service for that. There's also another program. Their small business can take advantage of employment taxes if they kept employees on board during the pandemic. There's actually approved on the books right now program where they can get a tax return for those taxes that they've been paid. That's another opportunity that we're going to be doing. And then we're going to continue to grow into other markets. We're working on our next 7-year plan now.
Fantastic. Just a quick, how can people get involved? How can people get involved? And here's 3 CPLC people. Maria, would you like to answer that? How can people get involved?
Well, I think on the last slide, there were several opportunities. First of all, certainly through partnerships, as David mentioned, we are open to discuss any potential opportunities. We have the flexibility of being a community development corporation that can create projects with multiple industries at the same time. So whether it be private or public or a combination of both, certainly is something that we thrive. Sponsorships, cplc.org, reach out for more, and also I'm available whenever you need more information of it. of course, as well as volunteering.
Very good. Thank you very much. We're going to now shift to a speaker kind of leveraging off what President Adame mentioned about refugees and some of the future of what they're doing. Cham Nam Lim is the head of strategic programs for Thunderbird School of Global Management, and she herself is a refugee from Cambodia, and she has taken on one of the biggest global education projects of all time. It's to educate 100 million people through Thunderbird's program. There was an initial tranche of $25 million going after that. I understand there was another 25 million received from someone through the president of Kenya. And so we're looking forward to hearing more about how this amazing vision and dream is now transpiring into educating so many people around the world. Cham Nam Lim.
Can you hear me? Yeah, well, yes. Thank you. I am just delighted to be here among so many distinguished speakers, sharing their ideas and success stories on global innovation. So my name is Cham Nam Lim. I am the Senior Director of Global Partners here at Thunderbird. And as many of you know, Thunderbird is the world premier leadership and management school. We're ranked #1 Masters in Management by the Wall Street Journal. And as Doug mentioned earlier, recently, I think just last month, #1 by the QS World University Ranking among 200 universities. Basically, above Cambridge, Harvard, and MIT. So I'm here to share with you a bold initiative that's never been done before in the history of education. It's the 100 Million Learners Initiative, and I wish I could bring up our website, but let me start with why this initiative is in such great need today. In the new global economy where technology has displaced, as you know, many workers, obtaining the future skill sets necessary for both personal and professional opportunities, too many workers lack quality education, access to quality education. So this is a problem that will only increase in the coming years. The demand for higher education is projected to grow from 222 million in 2020 to 470 million in 2035. Furthermore, the demand for skill sets to succeed in the new economy from members at the bottom of the economic pyramid, such as women entrepreneurs, is projected to exceed 2 to 3 billion people. So therefore, I am pleased to share with you this initiative that will help alleviate these challenges that we have today. It started with the generosity of alums Francis and Deanna Jaffe. You probably see their name outside our building, who believe that Thunderbird transformed their lives, and the experience of Thunderbird have made them who they are today, very successful. And they wanted to give back to people around the world to have access to the quality world-class education they received. With their contribution and our dean, his vision, brilliant architect and leadership, we now have the 100 Million Learners Initiative. Oh, thank you. So what is this initiative? We offer 3 programs, the foundational, intermediate, and advanced. The content for each of these programs are different, but learners can can select any of these programs. Foundational is for global majority, people who don't have any formal education, consists of 19 modules, 2 hours per module, that will give them the skill sets to be an entrepreneur and to be a leader. The intermediate and the advanced level, intermediate, the content is similar to an undergraduate program. In advanced is a graduate. Each of these programs are 5 courses. The 5 courses, 135 hours each. And the amazing part about this program is when a learner completes all 5 courses with a B or better, they are able to get 15 transferable college credit to go to their local university or transfer by applying to here to Thunderbird and be able to get a master's in in leadership management. So they would already complete half the program when they get here. So that's sort of the program itself. Learners will get the certificate once they complete each program. They get a badge once they complete a course, and they are able to apply for credit. And as part of Thunderbird's dedication to accessibility, this program in each course is at no cost to the learner. It's pretty incredible, no cost to the learner. So anybody can go online and register on our website at no cost. And it's open, it's digital, it's asynchronous, self-paced. Moreover, the course will be translated in 40 different languages so that communities in every part of the globe can take advantage of this opportunity. We currently have the foundational level already translated in 10 languages. They are Arabic, Bahasa, Swahili, Hindi, Portuguese, French, and Turkish. We have 25 languages released, will be released by the end of this year, and 40 by the end of 2024. Our target is to reach 100 million in 10 years, 100 million in 10 years, with women and girls accounting for 70% of learners. So as Doug mentioned, I am a refugee from Cambodia in a small village. Came here at the age of 5. My family went through the Khmer Rouge War. I lost my father at that time, but education has really helped my husband, who's also a refugee from Cambodia, to be where we are today. So we're strong believers. And I cannot imagine this kind of program, how much it'll impact the world and give people the empowerment and the ability to really grow and improve their communities. So please, this is our website. Help us get the word out, and it's an easy process to register and sign up. Thank you.
Thank you. What's the best way for people to get involved?
Thank you for asking that question. In order to reach scale, we have to, like I mentioned, make people aware and spread the word. Each one of you in this room, people online, you can support us by sharing the 100 million learners in your social media channel. Go to your contacts. This program is incredible and anyone can take this. As Doug mentioned, the president of Kenya had encouraged his people during their Independence Day in a large stadium to encourage them to take advantage of this. And we saw a huge spike in learners after his speech. We received support from, now that is being translated, different organizations from all over. But what's important is to really get this out. And other than reaching to private, public sector, government officials, influencers, anybody that you know that can help reach a large scale, by all means, please come and talk to me. But other than sharing this out, we can also use the support. It's free to the learners, but it costs us. There's a huge expense in putting this program together. The technology, we also need support. We've been getting help from Inuit What Language to validate the language. We need support in terms of the local technical support, getting the technology and access. And of course, any financial contribution we would love as well to help grow this program.
A round of applause, please.
Thank you.
Thunderbird has this center, this headquarters, and there are 13 hub cities, one of which is in Nairobi, Kenya, and there's a very strong relationship there. The president, I think, has been involved for at least a year. I've been seeing things involved, and then during the US-Africa trade, I think that had another name. The US, it was under President Biden's jurisdiction in December. The president of Kenya visited Thunderbird, and then that's when that additional $25 million was allocated. But there is a center that covers all of Africa in Nairobi. So definitely find out more about Thunderbird more holistically and definitely help out with this program. Our next speaker is also another Arizona focused organization that's been very successful, become the #1 organization in the world of sending medical supplies around the world, in fact, to over 130 countries. The headquarters is actually in Colorado, but they have one of their main distribution centers here in Phoenix. Ruth Sanchez is the executive director, and she's going to be talking about their groundbreaking work and their growth, and even recently shipments to Ukraine that have really changed the game. So Ruth, I know you're in the ethosphere somewhere. You're out on Zoom. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to learning more. Ruth is also on the Regional Global Chamber Phoenix Advisory Board. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Doug. Can you hear me okay? Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Well, I'm recovering from about a sinusitis, so my voice will break in and break out. But thank you, everyone. It's always so good to be sharing best practices. And as I hear the speakers, we have so many different threads of commonality and same vision and mission. And so for those who are new to Project Cure, we are right now celebrating this month 35 years of serving hundreds and hundreds of countries with thousands of containers, delivering health and hope. We are in different chapters. Our headquarters is in Denver, and we are obviously in Arizona, Tennessee, Chicago, Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Houston. And we're looking at also getting a warehouse in Florida. So medical equipment and supplies, we really try to exceed our goals of 200 containers a year. Those are 40-foot containers. And so far, we are like really well into overachieving, and we always want to overachieve. There's so much need in the world. When I was listening to Natsuyo and Thomas about storytelling and getting the emotions, activated and who you're sharing, your mission and your vision with. And also, Thomas, you're saying things that we're always saying is, trying to improve medical health and save lives in countries where they don't even have, a surgical light in their surgical suite, and they're operating with, a lamp. And so those are really important, that when we do projects with our partners, that we capture their story and then bring it to the audiences that can actually make a difference. Churches, Rotaries, sister cities, PCFR, schools, ASU, and all of the different universities, and getting people to not only support financially our projects, but to also come in and help volunteer. So we have a lot of opportunities. And so it's 135 countries. And I do want to talk a little bit about Ukraine and how we really had to be innovative in meeting the needs early on in the invasion. And that was almost, I think it was in February. So we're coming upon the anniversary. But before I do that, let me do a shout out real quick to Tina Waddington. She is the PCFR Executive Director, and one of our major donors and ambassadors is Chuck Irion. A few months ago, they went out to Kosovo, and they did, I think, at least 15 clinics and hospitals of assessing what their needs are. And the good news is that we're very close to getting a shipment out, a 40-foot shipment out to Kosovo. So I just wanted to share that we're really moving on getting what is needed, critical needs, life-saving needs to those in Kosovo. Ukraine, I'm going to read quickly. I didn't want to, share a PowerPoint or stats, but I'm going to read something really quick that we are so excited about. Even if it's, despite of it being such a tragedy. Since the invasion, 83 shipments with a value of more than $16 million have been delivered to hospitals and clinics across Ukraine. In the coming weeks, so we're talking end of January and in February, we're sending 4 more containers destined for children's hospitals in Kiev, and 78 pallets of mixed medical supplies and equipment. Now, we've been in this business for 35 years, right? And got it down. The logistics, we got it down, how to, work in partnership with customs. But when we're trying to get medical supplies that are not donated by hospitals, because we don't need that in the USA, we have to go out and get tourniquets. We have to get things that we might not necessarily have, but now is very much needed. We have beds and wheelchairs and, medical supplies, consumables that can be used by any facility. And the thought was, how do we get it there? Because back in February, I had a container stuck that was going to the Ukraine. We got it out, but most of those 83 projects, we airlifted them out. And when you are airlifting, you're buying space on an aircraft. That space is very expensive, but what's really hard is the way we would load containers is not how you would load an aircraft. So we had to quickly innovate and think, how do we get everything out and follow the protocols of airlifting, like with Airlink, with Virgin Airlines. Our CEO has a very close relationship with Richard Branson. And so we had to quickly turn it around, pivot, and start palletizing, and had to be very creative because it wasn't something that was so easy. And we had to have a certain weight and a certain size and everything. So with that being said, we've been successful in getting what they need for the hospitals. And I myself was able to partner with Common Spirit Health in San Francisco with hospitals that were children's hospitals, military hospitals, and raise enough funds to get 50 pallets out And we had to also do it under some level of confidentiality. And here's the other side of this, is that the port is able now to get shipments. And so, you know, Doug is our boss, and he's like, we're going to be there for 10 to 15 years. And we're going to have to help with the infrastructure of a lot of facilities that were destroyed. And so, you know, I wanted to give an update, and I know we're running out of time, but we're, you know, right now I'm working in Malawi, Kenya, Ethiopia, Cameroon, Lebanon, Bangladesh, South Sudan, Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, Peru, Guatemala, and Dominican Republic. That's just a few. And a lot of these have inner conflict. And so we have to be very creative to meet the need of countries that can be very dangerous to enter. So thank you for letting me
Ruth.
share. Sure.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So the purpose of this session today is really around recognizing people that are doing amazing work and amazing organizations. Global is good, and many of you know that our book coming out this year called Global is Good is about mainly business, but what we see here is global is good, meaning being able to pull these supplies together for people in need. And one of the things I think we all know about international business is you have to work with partners and you have to be a collaborator. Can you imagine, Ruth, how many partners or collaborators you have around the world? Is it certainly more than a dozen, more than 100, maybe more than 1,000?
I would say probably right now, currently with projects, probably around 250.
Amazing. Yeah, to be able to make this happen. I remember at one event you talked about that one container, was it to Myanmar, that had to go through some bizarre port? It cost like $35,000 to get the container from point A to point B and through different custom centers. And so again, there's creativity involved with global business and the activity the project here does, and there's stick-to-itness and innovation and whatever it takes. And so thank you for doing whatever it takes, Ruth, you and your team.
Thank you.
What's the best way for people to get involved?
I will put my email in the chat box. And if anyone is interested, we have an event where Doug is coming down into town, and we're going to be hearing more about Bangladesh because there's a lot going on. So I will, in that, I will put that contact information. That's February 23rd.
Very, very good. Thank you very much. So
Sure.
Zoom folks, hang on. And as you have questions, please put them into the chat area of Zoom, and I'm getting those. And as we have time, we'll answer those. We'll also be able to follow up after the event. Most of what Global Chamber does is helping businesses grow and primarily exporting. And so our next speaker is zooming in from New York, Ling Chung, with Ledger Funding. She, similar to some other speakers today, has a very distinguished career with IBM and many other organizations. And she's now taking her second career to the blockchain, and she's found solutions to help exporters get funded. And so, Ling, are you available, and can you share a Ledger Funding, please? Uh-oh, I think I'm getting a message that has exclamation points. Ling is not here. Uh-oh, okay. So that's not going to work today. So we'll have to move on to another speaker. And by the way, there's a couple of speakers that we're going to slip in along the way toward the end. We are going to try to finish up for those of you here and also on the Zoom call. We'll finish up here locally at 5 o'clock. And then there is an after 5 for those of you who would like to go upstairs and have a beer or whatever your drink of choice is. We'll go from there. I see our so we've got a couple of speakers that I think they're joining the session right now. So we'll get to it here in a second. So our next speaker.
Hi,
So I
Doc.
think
This
what
is
we'll
Ling.
do-
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
We
This is
do.
Ling.
Is
Yes.
that Ling?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. Okay. So there you are. We found you. Good.
Well, I've been listening. I'm not sure. I was in the wrong Zoom room. But anyway,
We need a higher volume on the sound.
okay, let me turn it on. Can you hear me?
That's better. Yeah, try it again.
Okay. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you'll need to talk loud because I think there's some noise with the students going by right now. So please go ahead.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks, Doc, for inviting me. I'd like to share my screen. How do I share screen? Okay, good. Can you see my screen?
We can, and you'll still need to keep talking louder because I think we have something going on nearby.
Okay, that sounds good. Hello, can you hear me?
Keep talking louder.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to spend the next few minutes just talk about the export funding innovation. And first of all, I want to introduce myself. So who am I? I was from Taiwan originally when I immigrated with my family during the US bicentennial. That was about 47 years ago. And since then, I joined quite a few American companies, the IBM, Computer Associates, LexisNexis, and Hewlett Packard. That gave me tremendous experience working in engineering, sales, and leadership roles. And then my last stop was at the Stromasys, a Swiss software company, as the CEO. That opened my eyes to the international business. And I helped the founder to sell the business to a bank, a software company. So that's how I started my entrepreneurial journey. And I'm pleased to share with you is that because of the unique solution that Ledger Funding is doing, we were recognized by the National Small Business Association for Exporter last November. So I want to talk about some of the use cases and the challenges and the mission that we have to help solve with those solutions and what sets us apart. Okay. So these are some of the use cases that we encounter in the export-import business. As you may know, the apparel companies, usually they use invoice factoring because typically you have the designer firms in the US and their supply chain is somewhere in Asia or maybe in the Middle East or Latin America. And they have to pay their supplier a certain percentage upfront before the supplier can ship them the apparel, and then they in turn to sell to large department stores in the US. And in the case of farming, under US law, you have to pay the rancher or the farmer within 24 hours after the goods leave the ranch or the farm. And in the case of logistics providers, they have to pay their container ships or warehouse vendors or their employees. And sometimes it takes them over 30 days to collect from their shippers. And another example is, for example, the export of agriculture business, that it takes them a long time to collect from their overseas buyers. And then one of my clients actually uses factoring service, but the problem there is that the factoring service requires them to factor all of their invoices. However, some of their customers pay on time, some don't. So why should they pay a finance charge for those customers that pay on time? So these are just some of the examples that we encounter in the export importing businesses. So as you can see, in a B2B business, there's always a cash flow issue, right? When the customer issue a purchase order to an exporter or importer, turn around, get their supply chain to start working, produce the goods, whether they are physical goods or intellectual property, such as software or digital contents. And then they have to deliver the goods, issue invoices, and wait another 30, 60, or even 90 days to get paid. So imagine the trade cycle can go anywhere from 60 to 120 days or even more. But in the meantime, the business has to meet its financial obligation, has to meet payroll, has to pay the vendors, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where the cash flow challenge comes in. It has nothing to do with the profitability of the company, but it has everything to do with when you get the income and when you have to pay the expense. There's another challenge from a funding perspective, because as everyone knows, the acceleration to digital has picked up tremendous speed ever since the pandemic. And everything is online. So it's just a matter of manipulation of the digital documents or even the algorithm. And who is to say that the information is actually correct? So some of the noteworthy examples for the past few years are, for example, Lending Club back in 2016, their employee authored the loan documents to the tune of $23 million. And fast forward 2 years ago, the leading fintech in London, Greensill, collapsed because of a lack of transparency and lack of internal control. The invoices issued by some of their customers were never verified. They were fake buyers out there. And yet they're supposed to be fintech and supposed to do everything digitally. Now, a very noteworthy case is Google, the biggest player in the advertising auction platform. They actually control 70% of the outcome of the advertising auction platform because they have secret program that can manipulate the algorithm, and they are actually being sued by 33 state attorney generals. So as you can see, these are the big players out there that have issue with digital trust. Imagine the lesser knowns. We really don't know what's real any longer. In fact, when I work with some of the commercial finance companies, they do not want to collect any documents from any third party. They insist on getting the documents directly from the clients because they were concerned that the documents could be tampered with or changed in the process. So that's why I started Ledger Funding. Our mission is to be the world's most trustworthy marketplace where businesses can find and diversify their funding sources to grow. And on the business side, a lot of businesses are not aware of the working capital solutions because people think about going to the bank, where I always encourage business owners to go because that's where you can get the lowest cost of financing. If you can get a bank loan, if you can get a line of credit, by all means do that. But however, if those are not available to you, or maybe those are tapped out, that's where the business should consider working capital financing because they are not a debt. There's no equity dilution, and there's no personal guarantee. It all depends upon the creditworthiness of your customers. And they can be as big as the size of a purchase order or the invoice to meet seasonal demand. So some of the solutions are listed in the middle, such as invoice financing or purchase order financing, and the payables and supply chain finance. As you can see, any trade instrument between a buyer and supplier, purchase order, invoice, that's where the financing can happen. What sets us apart, and I know it's an eyeful, is we give users the choices so that they can compare offers in a privacy-preserving way. They control who has access to their data rather than being broadcast to every funder in the network. They can choose which invoices to factor rather than the entire receivables. They will receive cash flow data to monitor their financial flow and also automate the entire reporting process. So all of this is built on the enterprise blockchain, which is patented to assure the privacy and the integrity of the funding process. So here's my contact information. If anyone has any questions, I know my time is up. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to work with you for discovery conversation. Back to you, Doug.
Thank you, Ling. A round of applause for. So this is starting to solve some really significant global trade issues, which comes down to trust, right? That's a lot
Yes.
of the reason why Global Chamber was formed, so that we could have a network that was everywhere with the people that we can trust, that we can deal with. And now through the blockchain and through this approach, funding can also be done. What's the next step in terms of rolling this out to the world?
Actually, we are working with a finance community. So we have access to 400 or so founders in 90 different countries. So if there's a need, we'll be able to matchmaking to the right funders.
Just in time for 2023. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Ling. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll continue the theme with our next speaker, Ubi Sheikh, who with co-founder Tony Mangat came up with a big idea. And that was, why can't we create our own network? And that's what they've done. Probably about a month or so ago, and Ubi, come on up, and he'll show you a video, and he'll also give you a little bit more background. But what was compelling for me on this was Tony, who came to the United States with $20 and now turning it into multiple millions of dollars through his trucking company. And then through that success has been funding a variety of other things, including the cricket stadium I talked about before, a $40 to $50 million cricket stadium, and this network. And when I talked to Tony at some odd hour, I remember driving home and him telling me that we need more real, honest information in the media, and it needs to be more business knowledgeable and centric. And that's certainly something that we can support. So thank you for joining this amazing team and co-founding Satluj Network. And we're going to hear more. Would you like to use this microphone or this? Okay. Ubi Sheikh.
Thank you, everyone. If we can please have the first video.
Hello, my name is Jim.
Do you ever wonder what's behind the news? What is it that you are not being told? Going behind the news and finding the truth. Lets the truth flow. Satluj Network, where the truth flows.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry about the audio. The press was served to serve the governed and not the governors. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. The press was a way to serve the governed and not the governors. As so aptly put by Justice Hugo Black. But however, in a search for profits, political favors, and the latest celebrity cheating scandals, we see anything but that. The governed have been shut aside, and the governors are in focus. Media is supposed to provide a platform to allow us to be better informed. It provides criticism and debates to ensure that the information is tested and examined from all point of views. In spite of the access of information which has spread so exponentially, and with all the information available, the distrust in media is at an all-time high. And this was the genesis of Satluj. Liberal, conservative, progressive, or traditional, Satluj Network leaves labels behind. The network was created to focus on positive stories of inspiration, personal growth, and human achievements, along with nonpartisan analysis and the news and issues that matter most. As an independent good news network, we bring the best balance of good news and fact-based information to a global audience. We would like to inform and educate our next generation of readers, listeners, and viewers, as well as strive to make a positive impact in the world we live in, so that we look at news and news media as something that's more trustworthy. We want to change the concept of no news is good news and have our audience come to our platform to get the latest information in the most unbiased manner. We are constantly trying to push to make a world a better place and keep the topics of human rights as well as work towards peace. So what is our mission statement? Our mission statement is simple: let the truth flow. Satluj, for those of you who don't know, is one of the longest rivers in South Asia, around which most of the civilizations of the past, like the Indus Valley civilizations, were formed. So starting a civilization of truth and letting the truth flow, we thought that Satluj was the most apt name for our network and mission. We are headquartered in Arizona, but we have remote offices set up all around the world. We have gathered an incredible team of journalists and citizen journalists around one fundamental issue, and that is the world needs to hear unbiased and factually correct news without spins, political agendas, or anything else. The only agenda that Satluj wishes to pursue is that of the human agenda. That being said, our programming is focused primarily on a global audience, and we are looking to provide intelligent and unbiased news and analysis and let the audience decide for themselves. We at Satluj want to hand that microphone to the people and to tell the stories to make sure that human stories are not lost between sound bites, political or corporate interest, or any vested interest for that matter. At Satluj, you will get more than just the story. You'll get the texture of the people in the stories with all of the complexities. You will not hear the stories, but also connect with the people behind it. And that is the driving force behind Satluj. We all know that the world is going through profound changes. The flow of information, like I said, is grown like human history has never seen before. Not only that, we are also seeing the reshaping of world with new powers emerging. So having said that, having a space where conclusions are not pre-cooked but articulated while keeping the human elements at the forefront has never been more important. In conclusion, the world we know is facing a lot of challenges, and we at Satluj are taking it as an opportunity to explore and challenge while protecting the fundamental principles of information and our right to be informed. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. I'd like to conclude with one more video for you to get you a feel of what Satluj Network is currently working on. Sorry.
Go where no one has gone before. Between the sounds of bombs and the whisperings, echoes of truth. Confronting power with courage and lighting the darkest shadows to inform and inspire. Flowing with truth and charting our own path. Satluj Network. Go where no one has gone before.
Sorry, I think it's on auto loop. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
So when I started Global Chamber, I recognized I never would have come up with it if I still lived in New York, where I'm from, or was in LA, because you're surrounded by global, you'd never see it. What's really exciting about this is I think it's very similar. Like, unless they were somewhere else, they'd never think, like in New York or LA, of starting the own network and being able to succeed on it. And yet they have a dream. And I believe that dream is going to be very successful. How do people get involved?
I'm sorry, I didn't get enough time to get my cards in time. I would have loved to pass them out. But we are based in Glendale. Please, I will send you my email if you don't mind sending out information. Otherwise, you can check us out on satellujnetwork.com. I'm specifically dealing with the television aspect of the network. I'm taking care of all the productions and producing all the shows as of right now with a group of very enthusiastic journalists. So I look forward to hearing all your stories and collaborating with you all.
You're originally from India as well?
No, I'm originally from Kashmir. It's a disputed territory between India, Pakistan, and China. So having said that, I have no idea, but Tony, as you know, is a very enterprising person. He found me, and I've just moved here from California. So I have an extensive background in working in media and entertainment. So here we are on the onset of a new network.
Tony has put together this amazing team, and then I just met a couple of them, and they're from Long Island, where I'm kind of from. Did you have your hand raised, Michelle? Okay, you here. Hold on.
Will there be advertising? Will there be advertising for this new station?
Yes, in the future, but as of right now, no. We are just more concerned about establishing our brand. And like I said, we want Satluj to be a forum or a platform for real information to be coming out. So we don't want to be boggled down by commercial interests at this point.
Thank you, Ubi. Appreciate it. Oh, one more question. Okay, Gretchen.
I did Google it, and you were an app. Would you recommend us following that app and sharing it?
Yes, we would love that. And actually, we are in the very onset of releasing our first smart TV app. So our distribution model is based on, we are collaborating with a few televisions. As you know, these days they come with apps. Otherwise, you can go to app stores and download our apps, and then you will have free access to all of our news and programming there.
Satluj Network, it's on my phone. You can see news there already starting to populate. We're going to have to keep moving. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
They're in. Thank you. All of us remember the day when Arizona was like a series of strip malls, right? It's in that Glendale shopping area, you know, whatever that's called. Westmark, I think, is it called? Or I forget what it's called. It's like, I'm not familiar with that area. It just kind of blows your mind. And they're set up on a floor. They've got studios being built, and it's unbelievable. We have two more main speakers, and then what I'll ask, there are a few other folks where we're just going to go probably a couple minutes so we can wrap up at the top of the hour. Like I know Mike Patterson, and there are a couple other folks we're going to speak toward the end, and we'll get you. But there's two main speakers, and we can't not hear Susan Lindner, because she is the innovation storyteller, and she's got podcasts. She works with big companies, mainly big companies, and helps them to be able to communicate innovation internally and externally. And so, Susan, thank you so much for taking the time this late. And are you there, and are you able to run through your information? We're really looking forward to learning more from you today.
I sure am, Doug. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Beautiful. Well, hi, everyone. I'm honored to join you from my great home of New York City. And what I'd like to talk to you a little bit about today is how we communicate our brilliant breakthrough ideas to the rest of the world, to influence them to change and to make the kind of change that we're all trying to make in our respective organizations. So I'll start off with a story of my own. I was working with Corning Glass, probably one of the biggest glass manufacturers in the world. And I was working with a team of fractographers. Now, if you're like me, when I got to Corning, New York, I didn't know what a fractographer was. Well, these are the individuals who are responsible for determining how glass breaks. So when your head hits a windshield, these are the folks who will determine whether or not your windshield pops out, whether or not it bends, or whether it breaks into 1,000 little marbles so you don't get further injured when your head hits the windshield. Well, the team I was working with was about to present a 59 slide presentation to the CEO and the board about a new windshield they were creating. And they started with this atomic level sand model. So you're looking at an electron model of sand. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall asleep if there are 59 more pages of this. And so in the middle of our conversation, one of the fractographers became an aunt. Amy's sister in Ohio had a baby. And so we all cooed and oohed and ah over this baby, and wasn't it wonderful? And then unfortunately, we went back to the electron level sand presentation. And I said, Amy, can you show us a picture of that baby one more time? And she said, sure. And so I said, wow, look at that baby. Imagine all of those neurons that are firing right now. And think about all those tiny little capillaries that are running through that baby's body, transporting blood from one place to another. And I bet her tiny little pancreas is growing just as we speak. And they all kind of looked at me like I had 3 heads. What is she talking about? And then it dawned on them that maybe the story we were telling about this breakthrough idea wasn't actually reaching the audience. Because what we're all excited about when we see a brand new baby is its potential, how happy it makes us, how joyful mom and dad are. And yet in our business presentations, we oftentimes lose all of the emotion when it comes to telling a great story. But it's actually the emotion that gets people to remember your innovation. So let's walk a little bit through this. So I got really inspired around innovation storytelling when I was in college. I was a religion major, and I was fascinated by how the prophets were able to move the word around the world. How did they do that when there wasn't a Twitter? How did they do that with just 12 close friends who went off into the desert with them? Or if you're like the Buddha, 24 friends who went into the desert and learned. I call them the greatest viral storytellers because thousands of years later, they got us to tell their stories for them. How powerful. How powerful that we're telling their stories. What could we learn from these prophets about how they communicate and the communication science they were using to get us to change from a very ancient way of thinking into a new way of thinking? Really, they were selling us concepts that we couldn't even see. Heaven, hell, nirvana, all of these ideas were things that we couldn't touch. How many of us are working on innovations that won't be completed for years to come? What did these ancient storytellers have to share with us today about how we could tell a better story? So in going through all of the way that the prophets spoke to us, that got us to internalize their stories and make them our own, I compiled these 5 eternal rules of storytelling. It begins with first, creating a shared history. By the way, these are the tools that we use in corporate life, in organizational life today, in order to convey a great story. First off, what the prophets did was they recognized that we come from a shared place. We come from a shared history. None of the prophets were throwing out the traditions that they came from. They were building on, or what we call today, iterative innovation. They were building on what came before us. So when we're telling a compelling innovation story, we want to talk about our shared history. Where do you and I see eye to eye? Next up is we want to make sure that we're conveying our values. A great innovation story, track with it values and purpose. Why are we even making this change? Who will it benefit? What is the goodwill that will come out on the other side of that innovation? And most importantly, the message. So if you're trying to tell an innovation story, if you're trying to get the CEO, the board, the engineering team, the sales team on board, you need to come with a powerful message. Think about what a shift it is to go from an eye for an eye to turn the other cheek. That's a big move, but it's a message that resonates with values. So we ask ourselves, what are the values that we're taking with us? And what are the values that we are leaving behind? And when we compile that message, when we think about what we need to communicate, We're projecting hope and optimism into the future. All of us in the room who are innovators in our own right, we're trying to create change for the betterment of other people. So is the message you're trying to convey actually communicating with the person whose life you're trying to make better? Next up, have you thought about who the early adopters are around you, who will help you take the message forward? If you look at all of the prophets, whether corporate or spiritual, all of them had a group of people who followed them, who believed in them, but told the story just a little bit differently. Why did they do that? It was so they could share different facets of the story that would resonate with different groups of people. Not all of us got it the first time Steve Jobs told us we were going to have a revolution in the palm of our hand. But lots of other people spreading that message made it possible for us to internalize it where we are. Education level, academic level, socioeconomic status, gender, all of these things play into how we receive a message. And then lastly, viral language. The way a great innovation story takes off requires great language. It requires momentum for an innovation story to take off. So how will you communicate your story in a way that moves people? And so I'm happy to share with you these 5 eternal rules of storytelling, and I'll give you a means at the end to request this from me. I'm happy to share this process with you. But a little bit more, as you're thinking about all this great innovation news you got tonight and how you might like to convey it, oftentimes people ask me, why are stories so powerful? And they are so powerful because our brains are hardwired to receive information this way, not Excel spreadsheets and bullet points, unfortunately. And in fact, Stanford University has done the research for us. Stories are 22 times more memorable than just bullet points alone. So when you're walking into a meeting and someone says, just the facts, Jack, you can absolutely give it to them, but no, they're not going to remember it probably by tomorrow. So think about how cultivating a story around it will actually give you the greatest productivity tool that business has ever seen. Now, we talked a little bit up front about emotion and why it matters. So emotions are actually the glue that make the story stick to you. And Hollywood screenwriters certainly know this. And if you've seen Inside Out with your kids, maybe you know that the emotions are those things that glue, that hold the story together. So in your next meeting, think before you share about the emotion that you want to convey to the group, and know that you have the power to determine which emotions you'd like to share. Are you trying to get them excited? Talk about the potential. Is there fear in the room that you need to address? And I'll remind all of you as innovators that every time you ask someone to change, every time you ask someone to change an impact, to change their behavior, to change a process or a methodology, you're automatically inducing cortisol, the stress hormone, to run through that person's body. In fact, none of us, a very small amount maybe, actually likes change. But if we can address that and then cause great emotions and great biomarkers like serotonin and dopamine, the joy of changing behavior, the joy that waits for us on the other side of the innovation, you have the power to bring lots of people along with you in your innovation story. How do we know it works when we're telling a story? Well, we know for sure that a goodwill story lights up the brain. It literally changes our biochemistry. So when you're telling a story of goodwill, you're actually trying to make someone's life better. So we reduce stress, we offer greater reward, and we have greater caregiving activity. And that's what a great innovation story does. So I want to leave with you with this. We know that when other people share our stories, great things happen. We're more influential on purchases. Those products and services that we're trying to get people to buy are more memorable and they're more trusted. So give people an opportunity to share their idea around the story. And finally, I'll just share with you this, that great group of fractographers that were working on the next new windshield, the story that we wound up coming up with was, imagine your 55-inch flat screen TV now becoming your windshield. Sit back in your Tesla, let your car drive you home through the traffic and catch up on your emails or watch last night's second half of Bridget Jones' Diary that you didn't get to finish. That's the story of that windshield that we got to tell without 59 slides. And if you'd like a copy of the presentation, certainly, I'd be happy to share it with you. And I'm Susan here at Innovation Storytellers. You can reach me, oops, right there. Thanks so much, Doug.
Amazing. You've got a variety of things online, right? You like podcasts and things like that. Where can people find you there?
Absolutely. You can go to innovationstorytellers.com. You can listen to the Innovation Storytellers show, and you're absolutely welcome to download for free my process on how to tell an innovation story that will guide you next time you have a big meeting where you want to introduce change or a breakthrough idea.
Awesome. Connect with Susan Linder online. And of course, for any of the speakers, if you have any questions and you need to get it connected to them and you can't figure out how to do that, please let us know. We're gonna wrap up after our next speaker. I'll probably go to a couple people in the audience after our next speaker, Luis Ramirez, who I saw walk in. Come on up, Luis. So Luis got onto the docket here because we had lunch about a month or so ago, and I was so impressed by what he's doing, has been doing for a long period of time between Phoenix and the border. How many people have driven from Phoenix to the border? Okay, so about half of you. So you know how far it is. How many times do you think you've done that trip? Are you going to use this, by the way, or this?
It's in the hundreds. I'm happy to use that, whatever is appropriate.
This one's probably easier.
Perfect, thank you. Several hundred times.
Thanks for all that you do. Luis has found a way to become respected by everybody on every side of the line, business, politics, et cetera. He works really hard. He finds a way to get it done. So please share more.
Thank you so much. And it's actually, I know we have 8 minutes to do this, but I would be remiss if I didn't recognize one of my best friends from college, Arturo Barrio, who's sitting here. Has been a longtime importer and exporter of many products between US and multiple countries. So it's good to see you, Arturo. It's been a while. And a bunch of friends here, literally just landed from Nogales. Both Martin Rodriguez, part of my firm, and myself were down there with the Arizona Department of Transportation. And I was asked to come in and talk about border innovation. And my challenge to you is to think about innovation in a different way. I think people think of innovation as new technology or something that somebody comes up with that it's a much higher intellect or IQ than I am. But we deal with needing to find ways to innovate at the border to expedite cargo, to expedite people, to enhance security and safety of our roads. So we can look at the process, we can look at technology, and we can look at the infrastructure. And in all three, there are opportunities for innovation, but I'm going to focus on a couple today. Because normally this is a presentation I would give that would take me well over an hour, but I now have about 7 minutes left. So I'm going to tell you about two programs. One, UCP, Unified Cargo Processing. Cargo processing typically is done if a truck is leaving Mexico, it must meet the export requirements of Mexico, then it gets in line in a queue to cross the border into the US, and then it must comply with US import requirements, and the process is reversed going backwards, must leave the US and enter Mexico, and there's a legal process in each one. That process was taking anywhere between 3.5 to as much as 8 hours in Nogales, San Luis, and Douglas to go through that two-country separate approach. And we did something innovative. We put the US and Mexican customs officers inside the same booth. So the truck comes up and stops once, and both US and Mexican authorities inspect the truck, the cargo, the manifest, whatever it is, with one stop. The result has been that trucks that are participating in the program are crossing the border, complying with US and Mexican customs laws in under 30 minutes. One company alone, we asked them to track their cost savings from this program. That company, in the first 30 days that they operated, and they were crossing, 10, 20 trucks a day, between inventory, fuel, They could do multiple trips per day instead of just one. All the associated cost savings, in 30 days, they saved over $700,000. Again, it's innovation by simply looking at the process itself. Another one that we did is what we call a touchless transaction at the border. For a Mexican truck to enter US or Arizona highways, they must secure a permit to operate on an Arizona highway, and that is processed by the Arizona Department of Transportation. Typically, the truck pulls into the ADOT compound, parks, driver gets out, walks in, hands cash or pays with a credit card, gets his paper, gets back in his truck and gets out. Typically, that was taking anywhere between 20 minutes to sometimes longer during the peak hours or peak months when we have thousands of trucks crossing on produce. We moved all the permitting to an online platform. So how long does it take you to fill out a form on an ADOT website? Pay with a credit card, 30 seconds, a minute. Pick that number. That has resulted not only in the gains in efficiency for the cargo, less time for the truck to cross the border, but now in an environment of the COVID pandemic, the paper transaction, the cash transaction, the credit card transaction that was done on the premises, we were getting 30–40% of the officers that were coming down with COVID. So therefore, less people working, takes longer to get processed, and therefore those 30 minutes became an hour. Because we went to a cashless, touchless transaction, those out of the ADOT officers are not getting as sick as they were. I mean, that's just the reality. Those are just two programs that we looked at the process and said, how can we change it? Why? Because to improve border infrastructure, the physical port of entry facilities where cargo and people are inspected, those projects typically take, if everything is lined up, will take 7 years. Some projects have taken as much as 15 years. So we need to look at ways to make the process better, faster, cheaper, safer now in this post-pandemic environment, if you can call it a post-pandemic environment. It's the new normal, I guess. And right now we're working on a new program. It's an EV truck drayage program at the border. On the Arizona border in Nogales alone, about 360,000 trucks cross the border northbound every year. 360,000 trucks that are diesel engines, combustion, idling 30 minutes, an hour, whatever time frame might be, tremendous amount of pollution that is being emitted by those trucks. We hope to convert those to electric trucks. Now, you talk to all the electric truck manufacturers of cars, and they always tell you about the distance they can travel on a single charge. 300 miles, Lucid, 550 miles or some, groundbreaking distance. But at the border, that's not my goal. At the border, the truck may be stuck in primary for 20 minutes getting processed. And if it has to go to secondary inspection, he or she may be there for 3, 4, 5 hours. So I need to find out the idle time of that electric truck if it has a reefer because there is fresh produce or tomatoes in the back. So I'm measuring a different benchmark than what is typically touted about the electric truck or electric car. So now we're looking at testing all that, deploying charging stations on both the US and Mexican side of the border. And these have to be the very large charging stations for trucks. A truck is not going to park for 8 hours to charge. We need that truck to charge in 30 minutes. Those are, those charging stations are $100,000 a pop. They're not that cheap. So again, we're looking for innovation, all the impacts that it'll have, environment, savings in fuel, maintenance costs. Why? Because an electric truck has thousands of parts less than a typical combustion engine truck. So anyways, I have dozens of examples like this, but I'm proud to say that Arizona is a leading state on the US-Mexico and the US-Canada border in these type of programs. We are the best. And when Texas, New Mexico, and California talk about come to our border, We do unified, we created this program called Unified Cargo Processing. We invented that here in Arizona. We can document that, by the way. We have the pictures of, when all these things are happening. So we are the example for North America. We have multiple states, both northern and southern border, coming to see what we're doing. And I'm happy to address any other questions about a bunch of other programs we have available.
Could you stay up here with me while we wrap up? Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
My college friend, Luis, you mentioned about having inspectors, Mexican inspectors and US inspectors in the same office. Do you have a process to, if there's a conflict between one inspector versus the other, how to resolve that?
Yeah, that was actually one of the main things we had to do, is if the truck, if it's inside the US compound, but it was Mexican customs that found something with the paperwork, well, technically the truck is on US territory. So those provisions were worked out. A bunch of attorneys were involved between US and Mexican customs to work out those details and who is responsible for what, and depending on who finds the issue, the mistake on the paperwork, or if they opened up and it says there should be 7 pallets and there were 6 and something is missing. So those have been defined already.
Zoomers, hang on. We're just going to be another 5 or few minutes, certainly not more than 10 minutes. So we had a couple other folks that were going to speak. I'd like to just go for a minute or two each, just to give maybe your reaction to what you heard today. Are you feeling better about being an Arizonan around innovation in the global world? And this is Mike Patterson. Everybody knows Mike Patterson, the connectivity, and Luis is throwing something at you. You spent 10 years in Mexico. You're an attorney with Spencer Fain, and you help companies land in the United States and go exporting. And you do amazing work. Thanks for all your support. What's your reaction to what you heard today?
This is fantastic. Innovation is critical. You asked me to comment on Mexico as well, but I just want to say innovation. 8 years ago, a guy looked around and said, there's no international networking organization out there. I'm going to create one. 525 chapters later, 8 years. Don't you think that's innovation? That's fantastic. If I could say, did any of you look at a color television today? Did you flush a toilet where the float came up? Have you ever used a mouse pad? Those were all 3 created by Mexicans. Is innovation important to Mexico? Yes. Do you own it? Have you protected it? The guy who did the color TV didn't make a penny on it, did he, Eduardo? Right? So poor guy, they stole it. You know what I mean? So I'm a lawyer. Protect your innovation. Control your innovation. I do 15 disputes a year where 2 partners came together, they can't agree 3 years later, and he runs off with your innovation. So make sure you protect, get your documents, your thing right. And I would just say, and additionally, if your innovation doesn't solve a problem like Doug did, if I created, I was sitting here thinking, I'm going to create an innovation that you catalog all of your socks, answer 12 questions about each one, and then when you get up in the morning, you answer 5 more questions on my app, and it picks the socks that you put on today, right? You would not buy that, right? That does not solve a problem. But color TV and what Luis is doing down at the border, that solves the problem. And this thing here, what we're part of, that solves the problem. That's innovation.
I was thinking Hank Marshall might buy that app because of his fetish for socks. I think it's a fetish. Maybe that's too strong of a word. Diana White is a critical piece of the ecosystem here in Arizona, and she's on our regional advisor board as well. Sorry we didn't have more time. I know you were prepared to talk longer, but could you just kind of react to what you heard today?
If you could do that for purses right here. This was absolutely amazing. And I think that the whole vein of this was storytelling, what's coming down the pipeline, and how we can become human beings to each other again. that's what I felt. I don't know what everyone felt. We can talk about it upstairs when we go for drinks, but I just want to let you know that Arizona is becoming a really, really big hub for not just technology. We've got, semiconductor things going on. We've got biosciences and all those different things, but we're also becoming a really big hub for international companies coming in. We have several soft landing spaces. For the past 2 years, I have been the state coordinator for Global Entrepreneurship Week, where we got to see all of the collective of Arizona coming together and really showcasing what we have to offer in terms of innovation and entrepreneurship. Peoria is doing amazing things with ASU. We're doing amazing things up in Flagstaff at Moonshot and NASET, which is an incubator accelerator. It just goes to show when I talk to many of my friends and family that still wonder 20 years later why I moved to the desert from New York, that we're not just a tourist destination. We're doing amazing things here. We're attracting big companies. And I think in the years to come, as we implement all the things that we've seen today, we're going to be an extreme major player on this playing field. So that's just what I wanted to say.
The US-Mexico border is a lot more interesting than the Westchester-Bronx border, which that's an inside joke because I'm from Westchester. So Ross, are you on the line? Did you hang on?
Yes,
Ross
sir.
Yelton?
I'm here.
Could you do a condensed version? Kind of what's your reaction to what you heard today?
No, it's fantastic, Doug. Thank you for having me here. I think it's all about relationships, and I just wanted to touch on 3 different programs very quickly that your people should know about if they don't. The first is the Commerce Authority's Innovation Challenge. So this is $150,000 non-dilutive funding that if you get chosen for that, I judge and work with it, you then go through a 12-month program. So they have that. They also have a number of incentives. So if you're relocating your company here, whether it's workforce training, angel investor tax credits, all those things are there for you. If you're life science, pay attention to the Flynn Foundation, FLINN.org. They have a bioscience entrepreneurship program we created 10 years ago. They also have another program for researchers from the universities we work with that they put $1 million out, 100,000 per team for ideas. So if you want that IP, and then last, I'm going fast here, Doug, trying to get you back on time, is LabForce. So it's a $3 million program for companies. It's an online learning management system that's being created because we know we all need workforce. So those are just 3 things I would share. And Mike Patterson's incredible, Diane's good. So you've got really good people there. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person.
You're amazing. Thank you, Russ. Russ and I think we met when you were shipping bio products, human body parts, or exporting them into other parts of the world. So there's all sorts of things that are being exported out of Arizona. I saw Ghazal here, Ghazal Khorshidi. I know you've been a little bit feeling a little bit rough today. Do you have any reaction to what you saw? And is there anything that we should know more about Thunderbird that we haven't heard today?
Thank you very much. It was an amazing program. I'm sorry that I came a little bit late. I have always been proud of living in Phoenix and also being a member of Thunderbird. You know that bread and butter is innovation, and we try to be active in that arena. So what we are innovating now is a series of events around Super Bowl in support of Mayor Kate Gallego to showcase Phoenix as a city of future. We are creating a metaverse scavenger hunt around Super Bowl. We will send out more information to Doug. Sorry, I think I took you by surprise. We're just like starting it, yeah. So it's going to be with around QR codes available in 14 historical places around Phoenix, downtown Phoenix. We will have this place ready for events. Come join us. It is Thursday, February 9th through Sunday 12th. Mostly focused in the evening. And I think Doc Jones is not here. He's going to help us with the music. We are very excited about it. We will have food, we will have programs, and we will have the positron chair. If you see it in the innovation lab, it is like a 5-dimension kind of learning experience. Everyone can sign up to experience it. People can sign up to do vocab here, which is like the 3D scanning here that we have. Like those of you who are in creative industries would know more about it, like how in Hollywood now they film movies. And the scavenger hunt will be just around going to these places, finding QR codes and getting prizes. More information to come. Thank you.
So I talked to Susan Lindner yesterday and she said, oh my God, you've got an innovation summit with 14 speakers and nobody has to pay anything for it. What were you thinking? And she's kind of telling me that. And I said, well, you know, we wanted to try this and see how it works out. And so we'd love for those of you on Zoom and those of you here, you know, what would you like to see in the future? We are going to kind of move ahead and continue to do these. The next one is February 23rd and with Tucson and Mayor Romero and a variety of other, like actually most of them, I think all of them are members, like American Battery Factory is a company in Utah that we suggested they come to Arizona to look at building their factory, and they chose Tucson, which is pretty amazing. It's actually quite a large investment, and that has huge international opportunity. And then there's some other things that I think you should know about, including the National Law Center and all the different countries that they're helping set up commerce systems all over the world, work that they've already done, and then a variety of things that they're working with some of our members. And also they've started some conversations with Thunderbird as well. So there's a lot going on. Keep connecting, keep having fun. Tell us what you need. Tell us what you want. And certainly from today's perspective, what would you like to see in some of the next events? We'd love to hear that. So in the meantime, let's talk to Velocity Global. They're amazing. You've heard a little bit from, at least some of you did, from Amber earlier, who's here in Scottsdale. And we have you're from San Diego, but you cover the region. In fact, you cover the world. So thank you for putting this on with us today. And what kind of reaction do you have based on what you've seen, and how can we help?
Well, thank you, Doug. Today has been wonderful. So I really, really enjoyed the incredible stories that you guys had. I'm going to start this out with sharing your emotions. I'm going to choose joy. Imagine that. Can you still see that picture on the screen? Because I can. But I see a lot of opportunity to partner with you guys. Let's get our countries together. We can hire anywhere. We're here to support you in any way. Come talk to us. We'll be upstairs. We're going to be bringing our Yeti up with us as well to keep that drawing going and hopefully get some really, really good connections with all of you today. From a personal perspective, I may not be able to help financially, but I would love to support you and volunteer or do anything I can to help with your initiative and whatever project you guys are working on as well. So thank you so much for coming.
So April Cohen of Velocity Global and Amber Meredith from Velocity Global, definitely connect to them online and be connected to them, because a lot of what we heard today are everything is cross-border, right? It's like, and with the world changing the way it is, it's just the way to do business. People, I got into this kind of debate, and we'll close on this, is that over the last 6 months, one of our members was doing some surveys, and they were talking about how globalization is, I don't think they use the word dead, but they are basically saying it's over and it's changing, and it's totally not. Globalization is evolving and it's changing, and it's actually growing in most ways, you know, especially around the labor side of it. Who could have imagined 5 or 10 years ago that what would be happening now is happening in terms of people doing business internationally, doing it virtually? when we did the first export league, it was right at the beginning of COVID. And it was like, well, nobody's going to be able to build a business virtually without traveling. Well, really? No, you can. And we did. And many people did. And everybody's doing it every day. And so let's keep doing that. Part of what makes that possible is working within a trusted network. Ling talked about that, right? You've got to have trust or else things go off the tracks pretty quickly. So stay within the global tribe and you're going to be more successful. So thank you everybody for being here. Thank you all of you on Zoom. I understand there's quite a few of you and we made a couple little errors with the Q&A part of it, but I understand you've now had a chance to input your questions. And so we're very happy to look through those and divert those to the appropriate people. And just like every member of Global Chamber, I hope knows, is you have an opportunity every day, every moment to reach out. Like, don't do it alone. Don't be the lone wolf where you make a mistake. Talk to people, talk to the global tribe. And if you have a question or a need, just reach out. It just takes a text, an email, a call, and whatever it is. But we see it on our side when members reach out, we can help right away. And that's a lot of fun for us. So give us some more fun. Thanks, everybody.